Hello everybody, today I'll be talking about the Red House Painters' debut album, Down Colourful Hill, which was released in 1992. Yes, I did memorize that for this video. It is definitely one of my favorites, hence why I'm talking about it today. And it is one of those records that I think are able to sort of find a way to really dig deep into your heart or your mind or your psyche and really stay with you. I guess this also depends on when you listen to the album, because I know lots of people have sentimental or nostalgic attachments to records, which really amplify themes or amplify your love for that specific album or song. So this album and Red House Painters in general are known to have been very important figures in establishing slowcore as a genre and have really helped shape the sounds and textures that we associate with it today. Slowcore is usually categorized by the slow tempos and intricate but simplistic melodies and overall depressing and bleak lyrics. So this record, it is mainly fit under the slowcore genre, but it does also explore and delve into different sort of territories and experiment with some different textures as well. So we do have some dream pop influences, especially the guitar tone in several tracks, and also some of that singer-songwriter, just that simple sort of songwriting with just the guitar and sort of spilling out your emotions over the track. And also folk rock influences and sounds, which is especially dominant in Lord Kill the Pain, which is a song that we'll talk about a bit later. But that does have a very upbeat melody with a lot of heavier guitars, I could say. So that does take influence from folk rock sounds. So it is a somewhat versatile record in terms of musicality, but the themes are very coherent and they do follow a very strict structure. I'd say the main themes discussed in the record are depression and loneliness and a lot of those ugly feelings that we experience. So the first track on the album is called 24, and this song is one that I think is able to really tap into this shared experience that a lot of people have, which is feeling as though you're running out of time or you're losing time or you haven't accomplished enough where you are now. I know when I sort of think of myself in the past and how I envision myself to be in the future, the difference in the expectations that I had and the reality of my life at the moment differs quite greatly. And I know you do set a lot of unrealistic expectations on yourself when you were younger and you're thinking about yourself in the future, but it is very scary to sort of look at yourself and like, wow, I've been alive for 18 years already, or 30 years already, or 40 years already. And I think the artist does an amazing job at capturing that feeling in this track. So yes, 24, it's amazing. And not to mention, the guitar work on this is very, very nice, along with the guitar work on the whole record, really. But this track in particular, I feel as though the instrumentals really let Mark's vocals shine and take the spotlight. And so there is a lot of emphasis put on the lyrics. The next track is called Medicine Bottle. Now, Medicine Bottle is probably the most soul-crushing song on the whole record. It does have this very heavy and this very thick, mellow guitar melody that just stretches through the whole track, and it is very entrancing, but just as much as it is very depressing as well. So it sort of sucks you into its little dark world. And I do feel the instrumentals in this song really does reflect on the themes that are discussed as well. To me, this song represents depression and how that can get in the way of relationships and how that can affect your relationships, whether that be with lovers, with friends, with people, or even with yourself. Whatever the song means to you, it is still very soul-crushing and sad, like I said. And I think that is what makes it so beautiful, because no matter how ugly the themes, how ugly the emotions that it's conveying are, it still sounds so beautiful. So I guess we do romanticize our own sorrows and woe is me and kind of like to dwell in those feelings sometimes, which is okay, So the next song on this album is called Down Colourful Hill. Now this song is, in my opinion, probably the weakest out of all of them. Don't get me wrong, it's still an amazing song in its own right, but when you do compare it to the masterpieces that surround it, it does sort of fall short. The track has this very distinct military style drum beat, which I do really like. And the guitars are also very nice, which complement a lot of repetition that is found in the song. To me, this song kind of represents the ending of love, the ending of a relationship, and the sort of final stages of when you're kind of anticipating things to end. And that's especially highlighted in one specific lyric, which is called "Dread Do Changes Ahead." And I guess once you get used to this sort of pattern of behavior or routine, it is really hard to shift back into being on your own. So it's kind of dreading those changes, even though they must come. Now the next track is called Japanese to English. Or is it called English to Japanese? No, it's Japanese to English, okay. And this track to me does highlight the importance of communication in relationships. And like I said before, with lovers, with friends, family, and most importantly, with yourself. Now, the exploration of these themes are illustrated through a very specific experience that Mark had when he was writing this album. I think I read somewhere that he was in a relationship with someone, and there was this really big language barrier between the two, and they could never really fully express themselves to each other, which is just bound to cause a lot of problems, since communication is really what holds people together like glue. So yeah, it's, once again, the themes are lovely. It kind of boils down to that sense of hopelessness, because there's nothing really you can do to improve the situation. Even using, a dictionary isn't going to fully do your emotions justice. So although this is a very specific experience that Mark had in his life, I still feel as though it conveys a lot of emotion that a lot of people experience. So it's a lovely track. I, once again, love the guitars, love Mark's vocals. Now, Lord Kill the Pain is the next song, and this is the one that I briefly touched on at the beginning of this video, that does delve into folk rock territory due to the very upbeat nature of the guitars and the melodies on this specific track. So there are a lot of exaggerations and hyperboles within the song. I don't think he actually wants to kill his family and his neighbors, but it does really emphasize a lot of the adolescent raw emotions that are illustrated in the song, like isolation and sort of trying to make your own path and follow your own way, but being, annoyed by exterior influences. And I think it is really perfectly captured in that sort of witty, not so satirical, I think it's like half joking, half serious sense. And especially when you start paying attention to the lyrics, the contrast between the upbeat melody and the lyricism really does sort of make for quite a humorous experience. But I really like it. I think it's a great folk rock track in itself, and put in contrast with the other tracks on the record, it does sort of balance everything out, so it isn't too overwhelmingly depressing and sort of just consumes you in its sadness. But yeah, it's really good. Now the last song, Michael, that sort of forms as an ode to a lost friend or to an old friend, and I do really love the acoustic guitars on this one. The song is very nice, a lot of rhetorical questions, and the part about this song that I love, and the same goes for a lot of the other tracks on this record, is that it's not filled to the brim with complex metaphors or figures of speech. It's very simple, sort of just laying your soul out onto the page. And I think that's also something that we're seeing in a lot of Mark's more recent work, his solo work, and his work with Sun Kil Moon, especially the record Benji, where it is very direct storytelling. There's no sort of reading between the lines. He kind of tells you exactly what's going on. And that's also a very interesting thing to kind of see the beginnings of that, or sort of seeing Mark's songwriting evolve and shift over time and fit into what he thinks works best for his art. That was Down Colourful Hill It is a magnificent album. I also really love the cover. I think the cover is one of my favorite album covers. It perfectly encapsulates the mood of the album, the tone of the songs. So yes, that is all. Thank you for watching if you made it this far, and I'll be back with some more videos, probably.